You've got the car, you've got that special someone, you got the house, your white picket fence, the 2.5 kids, and the Labrador. So why is everybody fucking miserable? Welcome to Beyond Polarity. This is Vlad. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine, and the topic came up: why are we all miserable? And no matter what we do, no matter what we have, no matter how we live, everybody's fucking miserable. Why is that? Well, the simple answer is we all make really shitty decisions. The real answer, which might take a little bit more explaining, is that we are socially programmed to make horrible, shitty decisions. So, as usual, let me start from the big picture, and I'll work my way down to how it pertains to us and how it affects us. Basically, what happens is, first and foremost, you have to understand that everything that we know about our civilization, humanity, our history is bullshit. From the water erosion on the Sphinx, which dates it to be about something like 12,000 years older than they initially thought, because it's a desert and it hasn't rained there for a while, not to cause water erosion. So from the Sphinx at Giza having water erosion to the Sumerian texts that explain how an alien race called the Anunnaki came, and they were geneticists and basically crossbred the dominant animal with themselves and created us, which explains the missing link. Anyway, we're just fed full of shit, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands more examples. So just from starting from that point, everything that you think you know about your past is probably horse shit. And there's all kinds of politics, people that have formulated certain theories, and other people that have built on those theories. When something gets disproven, it ends up being a giant mess, and people lose funding, all kinds of shit happens. So it really behooves them to maintain the ignorance or the lies that have been perpetuated. We are a tribal species. There's something called Dunbar's number, which basically states that we tend to live in tribes of about 50 to 150 people. Beyond that, we don't have the capacity to actually have any kind of relationship that's worth a shit with a lot more people than that. Yuval Noah Harari just gave a TED Talks where he talked about why humanity rose above all the other primates, and his contention was that it wasn't because we were smarter, it was because we could cooperate together, and we got along together much better than all the other primates. Therefore, we can kind of conspire to build cities and advance our technology and all this stuff. We have certain agreements. I don't know the guy that flies me in a plane. I just have a social agreement that that's his job and he knows what he's doing. I don't know my dentist. I don't know the guy that built this apartment. We just have a social agreement, and we've cooperated to the point where I live here. So, this is understood. And he also argued that we are the only creature that prefer fiction to the objective reality that occurs. So we fabricate stories. All of these are borders to our countries, our states, our religions. All these institutions that we've created, all these ideals that we follow, they are a social contract or a social understanding that we all agree, or great groups of us agree with certain ideologies, and they end up going unquestioned because they have just always been truths since the day we were born. The fact of the matter is, our intellect and the subsequent technology that results from our brains and our cooperation is growing at an exponential rate, and our biology can't keep up with it. Our entire society is structured like a Ponzi scheme, which a lot of people know all this Illuminati shit. I'm not going to get into all that crap, but it's a pyramid. It's set up like a pyramid. So anybody that's had a job or anything like that knows that there's the boss, there's the guy under him and his little cronies and his assistants and everything, and then there's the other guys, and then their regional bosses, and then there's your boss, and then there's you, the peon. Probably. So our biology is used to Dunbar's number, 50 to 150 people living in a tribal community. But because of our intellect and this Ponzi scheme that has developed to organize massive groups of people, we are kind of experiencing this cognitive dissonance between what our body has spent hundreds of thousands of years developing certain kinds of instincts, and our intellect is okay to live in a city that's got thousands of people in it. So our body is on an instinctive level, on a subconscious level, is not cool with this. And the powers that be in this Ponzi scheme have found a way to divide us into kind of groups within groups within groups, casting systems that keep us playing nice. So between our entire history being a lie and this Ponzi scheme, we've got an artificial environment that we are just not biologically meant to live in. This is not how we function for hundreds of thousands of years, and now all of a sudden we are removed from how we evolved completely and put in this fabricated, almost like a petri dish experiment of contemporary society. In neurolinguistic programming, they talk about the map not being the territory, and what this translates to is, because we prefer fiction over an objective reality, we tend to run simulations all the time. We either live in the past or we anticipate the future. We're regretting the past, we wish we could change the past, and we would have said this if only we can go back. Or we're making contingency plans for the future. We're rarely here in this moment, right here and now. We're always running simulations. And if the information that we're given about the territory is wrong, the simulations that we're running are giving us all kinds of false data. It's basically like wanting to get to Arizona from Kentucky and you have a map of Russia. So that is our biological hardware. Now the software, which I've already touched on, that we're given as a social programming, it's not working with the hardware, the biology that we've evolved with. So there's a cognitive dissonance between our hardware, our biology, and our software, our social programming, which changes all the time. If you want to learn more about how we are meant to interact, especially as men and women, I highly recommend looking into Johnny Saporno. It's called Seductive Reasoning. It's basically an explanation about us being hunter-gatherers. When agriculture came in, that concept was transposed onto our mates. Because essentially before that, for hundreds of thousands of years, we were polyamorous. What we consider to be love now is a very muddled composition of some very different concepts. Biological sex is not love, yet we confuse it with love. Heartfelt love is love. Infatuation is not love, but we call it love. So these things are kind of jammed in together and clustered together. And we are not a monogamous creature. We are polyamorous. This tribe of about 50 to 150 people would have monthly, bi-monthly rituals. It's all well documented, where they would have these fertility rituals. That's a churched up way of saying orgy. They would have orgies. Couples would come because we do pair bond. We pair bond to raise children. We are meant to pair bond to raise children. We raise children in communities. That's where the term "it takes a village to raise a child" originated from. It's a very old saying. But when we have sex, we tend to have sex almost indiscriminately and with anybody that our biology is attracted to. In ancient times, people understood this and they were fine with it. Just like any animal is fine. Just like a lion will breed with all the lionesses and nobody gets jealous. That's just how it was. Women would also, this is not a male-only thing, women would also run around and always look for the best genetic mate to give her the most symmetrical child that would be most likely to survive and perpetuate the species. That's all we're here to do. On a biological level, all we're meant to do is survive. And there's two different substrates of that. Survive personally, survive long enough to fuck and have a kid. And hopefully beyond that, survive long enough to make sure that he or she survives. And then the bigger picture, if you back up, if you upchunk this, is survival of a species. So your fundamental biological programming is just survival. Has nothing to do with love. Nothing to do with love. I can't emphasize that enough. So in the tribe, they would have orgies. They would get their jollies. The child would be conceived by who knows who, and the village would raise him. The main parents would be the pair-bonded couple that preferred each other's company to other people's company, but they were free to come and go as they pleased, and they did so often. There are still places on Earth today that live like that. This is not refutable. If you want to read a little bit more on that, I highly recommend almost anything by Alan and Barbara Pease. I read a really cool book. One of my favorite books of theirs. I've read all their books actually, but my favorite book that started opening up the doors for me was Why Men Don't Listen and Women Can't Read Maps. They have a whole series. It's a husband and wife team. It's a very entertaining and done in a very lighthearted way. The true history of how our mating evolved and how we're supposed to still be, and how on a biological level we're very much still like this. So we can't figure out, why am I in love with my girlfriend or my wife? Why am I in love with my husband and I want to fuck somebody else? Causes all kinds of problems. It's bullshit. Also, read Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan and Casilda Jetha. Fantastic book. That one actually blew my doors off. It went even more in depth into human sexuality and a lot of the stuff that I'm talking here right now. So, let's just accept that these things are true and move beyond that. We've got this Ponzi scheme to create an artificial structure that we're not biologically adapted to actually living in and to be happy in it. Unless you have $1 billion and you've done a lot of spiritual soul searching and freed yourself and all these things, chances are you're not happy. There is a void inside you and you can't figure out why. Well, the powers that be have a lot invested. The powers that be are the ones that probably are as close to happiness as a human could be nowadays. They do have polyamorous relationships. In fact, because it's a male-dominated society, it tends to be one man and a number of women, which probably cheat on him secretly. But he gets to be open with his multiple relationships and affairs because he's got many, many assets, and women are attracted to assets. Men are attracted to symmetry, nice hair, nice skin, and youth. So we're a lot more shallow. So the structure of society is institution on institution on institution on institution. And like our buddy Red from the Shawshank Redemption said, once you're institutionalized, you don't feel comfortable taking a piss without asking permission. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like that. And that's about right. See, we don't even know what it's like to live outside these institutions because they have been embedded in us since we were born. We have no clue. The Matrix makes a good point for this. It's been talked to death, so I'm not going to go into that because you can listen to a number of people talk about that. But we don't know. We're in a gilded cage. There's an artist named Hare that in 1908 created a series of paintings about beautiful women, naked and shackled in beautiful shackles in beautiful houses with butterflies flying around them. We don't know that we are in a gilded cage. We don't know to even ask the question or consider that maybe all these institutions are a fabricated social agreement that we are unknowingly agreeing to live in because we don't know any better. So, our intellect and our biology are completely at odds at all times. We're miserable in our relationships because we can't be with other people. We love the person we're with, but we're attracted to other people. That would be cheating. Well, you have two options. You can be loyal or you can go cheat. Those are the main options. There's some other options, but those are the main options that were given by society if you're an upstanding, good, God-fearing person. Well, most people cheat. You can be alone. Well, most people don't want to be alone because we're social creatures. So they cheat, which causes all kinds of turmoil. They get caught. Even if they don't get caught, you're holding back from your lover. You can never share yourself fully with somebody that you're keeping secrets from. So we're given this structure of black and white, Republican, Democrat. And this is called the illusion of choice because it's not really choice. You don't have a choice until you have at least 3 options or more. What we're given is a dilemma, and both sides really lead down the same road if you look at it. I'm not going to get into politics. That's just an example. I don't want to hear any arguments about Republicans and Democrats. I don't give a shit. But we're given this black and white structure when life is actually very, very much more complicated. This black and white structure keeps us divided, keeps us fighting, keeps us easy to corral by the upper classes. When, in fact, if you go a little bit deeper, you'll see that there are shades of gray. And if you go even deeper, or up the chain, or up the pyramid if you want to say, you find that it's a spectrum now. It's not just black and white, it's not just shades of gray, we're not dogs. There's a spectrum of colors. And then if you go even higher than that, now it's something that has dimension. But we're kept thinking in black and white. That way we're easy to control. And people are very easy to control. It was, I believe Lenin and Goebbels both said that if you repeat a lie enough, it becomes the truth. And in Mein Kampf, Hitler actually said something similar, but he went on to say that the bigger the lie, you want to tell a big lie rather than a small lie because it's easier to believe. So the bigger the lie, the more far removed it is from things that you can actually cross-reference and see that they are not so. The more far removed it is from the truth, the more it's its own entity. And then you repeat it enough and people believe it. People start regurgitating it at the water cooler, validating it by even arguing it, and that's how that works. Through millennia of organized society, there were secret societies, which again, I'm not getting into conspiracy theories, I'm just telling you facts. There were secret societies, and it doesn't even have to be secret societies. Societies, period. All this stuff is documented. So we learn how to govern bodies of people. We learn how to do these things just by virtue of experiencing it and educating ourselves. So the people that were higher up stood and are currently standing on the shoulders of giants. We, the people lower on this Ponzi scheme, we kind of toil around and we kind of learn how life works. And then our kids tend to learn right about the same place where we started learning. So they're not inheriting what we've learned and taking it from there. Like, we're not passing the baton, so they have information that they can use to launch off of, like the higher ups are. So the higher ups have learned how to corral us because we have a very basic understanding of how everything works. We just kind of know that, you know, money, we need money, we gotta work, we gotta have a job, we gotta eat, we should have a family, we should do all this checklist of things that our institutions have told us that we need to do, and then, you know, this carrot dangling in front of us, and then when we manage to do these things, finally we'll be happy. See, happiness is always placed sometime in the future. Once you get the car, you'll be happy. Well, I got the car, I'm not happy. Yeah, that's because you don't have the house. Okay, well now I got the house, I'm still not happy. Well, you didn't get married. Of course you're not happy. You've got all these things, you're not sharing it with anybody. Okay, well fuck, I got married, I'm still not happy. That's because you didn't have kids. It never ends, and no one's ever happy. We have these fleeting moments of happiness, but we're never happy. Why? Because we have structured our lives based on a fabrication. Someone else's fabrication, whose own personal interest is to make sure that you're not happy. Because as long as you're not happy, you're going to be working your shitty fucking job. You're going to be married to somebody that maybe you don't like. You're going to have kids. Not that I'm saying anything's wrong with kids. But if you have an ambition, kids tend to put that on pause. That's a fact. So as long as people aren't progressing, aren't evolving, aren't thinking for themselves, everything's cool. Society stays together as is, no problem. Just keep them living paycheck to paycheck, and everything is fine for the upper people. They're happy as fuck, and we are getting by, paying bills and waiting to die. So Lenin and Goebbels said, repeat a lie enough, repeat a lie often enough, and it'll become the truth. And then Hitler went on to say that the bigger the lie is, the more believable it is. And actually, like a quote by Mark Twain, he said, "It's easier to fool people than convince them that they've been fooled." And that's absolutely true, because a lot of times when the truth comes out about certain things, let's say weapons of mass destruction, a lot of people don't even want to hear it, or they don't even compute it. They'll say something to the effect of, "Well, that's fucked up. But man, I gotta go, what am I supposed to do about it? Fucking politics, man." It's bred into us, the futility. So some destructive programming that is resulting from all this artificially structured society that we live in. Thanks to the feminist movement, I'm going to get all kinds of love mail for this. Thanks to the feminist movement, they fought for equality and they got sameness. What actually occurred is men and women fought, families broke up. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't a good movement. I'm just saying what happened. Women became empowered. They were resentful. The men, being sexist pigs, wouldn't put up with a woman mouthing off. Families broke up. Kids grew up in broken families. And now we're at the point where we have what's called this third wave feminism, where there's just this residual effect of feminism. The effect of broken homes. The effect of women acting like men in a society made by men. So now we have women that are masculine. And we have what I call male guilt. Very similar to white guilt. Male guilt is an endlessly suspended apology in time. We are constantly apologizing for the sexist pigs our grandfathers were, like it's our fault. And women are very angry, generally because they have been taught that if you want to be respected, you have to act like a male. You have to exercise the masculine energy, to be decisive, to speak loudly, to push your way to the top. This is not really the essence of a woman. The essence of a woman is communication, dance, harmony, love. Women are actually much more sophisticated than men. They are much more emotionally sophisticated, I should say. Men are just logical beasts that kind of kill and fuck and mate to have kids and work on their cars, and we're pretty simple. Women are emotional. Emotions are great, but they need the balance of logic because emotions aren't very well structured. They're very loosey-goosey. So we need each other. We need these aspects of masculine and feminine in us. The problem is males, contemporary males, have been feminized because they were raised by feminist mothers in single homes, likely, because the fathers bailed. And they were raised to apologize for being males. Women, the women that we have now, were raised to be strong. And you don't need no man. Well, no, you don't. Nobody needs anybody. It's just nice to have somebody. But it's not a prerequisite. You don't have to have that person. And you definitely don't need to resent that person for their essence being masculine, or disrespect anybody for their essence being feminine. And nobody needs to apologize anymore for having a masculine essence or a feminine essence, because at our core we are what we are, and we need to stop apologizing for that, because in today's relationships it's one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem that we have in relationships today. Women secretly hate a spineless man, and the more he does to please her, the more she can't stand him, and she will use that resentment to go cheat on him without any kind of conscience about it. A man will use his girlfriend or his wife's bitchiness and the resentment that accumulates from her cutting him off at the knees every chance she gets. And he'll use that to cheat on without a conscience. So you see where this gets us. We have been our sexualities have been reversed. So all these institutions, all this social programming, redundancy systems, have literally got us going backwards against everything that is biologically hardwired into us. And then we can't figure out why we're miserable. And the way these things are perpetuated is basically, it's very easily understood that people tend to move away from pain much more than they move towards pleasure. It's much more easy to motivate people to do what you want them to do by instilling fear in them. So what do? How do we fix this? How do we fix all this shit? Because the software that we are being handed is not compatible. Well, we have to program ourselves. We have to read the right books. We have to watch the right movies. And we have to understand that everything that you put inside, your brain is a computer. Your body is a biological machine. Your soul is the driver, but it's only capable of driving that biological vehicle based on the limitations that are set. You can only use a computer by what kind of programs it has on it. I could have the most sophisticated computer in the world. If I have downloaded viruses and I have downloaded programs that are incompatible together and that cause dissonance and don't work together, that contradict each other, my computer is not going to run right. And this is exactly what's happening now to all of us. This is why we are miserable. There's a book by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages, and this explains the very basics of how we talk to each other. This is how people understand love. Some people understand love through words of affection. Some people understand love through quality time spent together. Some people understand love through gifts. Gifts are important to them. Or giving gifts. This is how they give love. Or acts of service. Helping, giving rides, or whatever. And other people express love through touch. Now, this isn't one or the other, but there's a dominant and then there's secondary ones. And what you have to realize is that if you're with somebody who shows love through touch and you show love through gift giving, you don't speak each other's language. Chances are you're going to really misunderstand. Like a woman is likely to say, I wish he would touch me. I wish he would love me. He never touches me. And he can't understand, what the fuck? I just got her a diamond bracelet. And she resents me for it. She never gets me shit. All she does is cling on to me. You see? So learn the love languages. Learn how your lover is talking to you, how they're communicating, and understand that you can change languages. You can speak to each other and talk that language together, or switch between languages. Now, what we've got between the social programming of society, the sexual role reversal, and a lot of bad programs like 50 Shades of Grey, Twilight, just garbage programming that muddles up things that the author doesn't know anything about, like sadomasochism and love. These two are mutually exclusive things. The sadomasochist is not heart connected. These two modalities can't exist in the same space at the same time. Yet, we do this all the time. We see these movies all the time, we hear the music all the time, and they're always selling us this perfect drug that gets us high and keeps us high forever, man. They never sell the dope sick. They never sell you they never talk about the fact that you're going to want more. You're going to read that book, and it's going to leave you wanting more, just like any drug. So you read the other shitty fucking book, and then you want more. That's how a pusher gets their clients on the comeback. That's what keeps you addicted to this stuff. And most people, in my experience, do the bondage thing, and they do all kinds of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it doesn't become a fetish. Because as soon as it becomes a fetish, you cannot get off unless you do it. And the problem with that is it has to become more and more extreme, just like any drug. It creates a gateway, and you have to take more. You have to take it up a notch over time until you're numb, until you can't feel your heart at all. So if you're into this stuff, you're headed down a really fucked up path, and it has everything to do with why you're miserable. So what can we do? Well, first of all, everything that I've talked about in this episode of Beyond Polarity has to be looked at. Question everything. Don't take anything for granted. You know, we get on Facebook all the time and we see these stupid little memes, and some of them are, and these are little tiny programs that get in our head without us even realizing it. Some are really good. Like one that I like a lot is Don't Be Eye Candy, Be Soul Food. That is a good program. Don't be eye candy, be soul food. Don't be junk, be something nourishing. Be a nourishing kind of a person. A shitty one that sounds like a good idea is I give as good as I get. Well, on the surface it sounds great. Like, man, you treat me like shit, fuck you, I'll treat you like shit. This is a horrible program. No. This is a program that if you accept it and you agree with it, you agree that as soon as somebody treats you shitty, they are taking control of the situation by dictating how you are going to act. So you're going to give them your power. You're going to lower yourself to their level, and you're going to return what they gave you. So they dictate how you act. That's not empowering. See, on the surface, it looks like you're empowered, but you're not at all. You've just given all your power away. And it's something that small. You teach a kid something that small and have him believing that his entire life, That meme alone could be the reason why there isn't world peace. By itself. There are memes and little social programs, many. Christ, for instance, Krishna, all the sages, Buddha, they talked in these levels that I mentioned earlier, not just black and white, shades of gray, and there's levels of truth. So something like love is all you need has a different meaning on different levels. On a biological level, that's complete bullshit. Love is not all you need. Money. You need money. You need food. You need clothes. You need shelter. And maybe once you have those things, you can indulge yourself in having an emotion for another person. On a higher spiritual level, ultimately, yeah, the universe is made of love. Mortality is an illusion. The entire universe is made of love. So of course, it's all you need. You have to have the ability to discern on what level that program is going to function in your head and in your heart. So you want to question everything. And then on top of that, you want to deconstruct everything. Where are you at spiritually? Are you somebody driven by their biology? Are you just an animal that's running around fucking everything that moves? Is that what's causing your misery? Are you addicted to sex? Are you addicted to people? Because this is something that's not sustainable. Your biology, all it's got to do is live long enough to take care of the kid, and that's it. Your ambitions, your love, your emotions mean nothing to anybody but you and the person and people that love you. So are you developing those things? If that's what you want to do, if you want to cultivate those things in yourself, then you need to mind the programs that you're downloading into your head. Mind the movies that you're watching. Mind the memes that you agree with. Don't just agree with them because somebody turned a witty phrase. Don't just agree with them because they sound good, because somebody was articulate or that you admire that person. Always question, always deconstruct the programs that you are installing in your brain. Meditate. I know I'm a broken record, but you have to search inside. You have to get past cognitive thinking. You have to get past words and language and get into the depths of your emotions and find out how you feel about things, not your theories on how you feel or how you should feel about things, or how you feel but your mom would never agree and your family would never understand. How do you feel about it? Accept it and let it go. Learn to do these things. Forget what society says. Forget what your mom and dad say. You have to be who you are. Work on waking up. Work on not obsessing with the past that's unchangeable. Work on not obsessing with the future. That's not something that you can make a contingency plan for. If you've ever done this for long enough, you realize many times what you've been anticipating and anxious over isn't even what happens. You spend all that time not being present. And it's wasted energy when you could have been doing something good now. You could have been happy now. Resensitize yourself. For guys, it's porn. For girls, it's romance novels, which is still porn. Now, romance novels are creating, again, this fictitious world where things that cannot live together in the same space are blended to form a perfect drug that doesn't exist. You spend the rest of your life chasing that drug, and marriages break up over it. Men, we jerk off to threesomes and compilation clips of things that would never happen in reality. You're never going to have sex with 18 different girls in 5 minutes. So we are desensitized, chasing things that don't exist. So, put yourself on a porn diet. Get your soul, get your heart involved. Women have these rape fantasies. They don't want to be raped. They want to be ravished. Because ravishment is heart connected. For men and women, abstinence. Try being abstinent for a little while. Because when you have sex and all you feel is your genitals and you don't have an orgasm with your soul ever, you're incapable. That orgasm gets more and more shallow every time you have sex, and you have to push more buttons and add more bells and whistles every time you have sex. You need to chill and resensitize yourself. Guys, stop jerking off. Stop jerking off to porn. Let your body fall back into its natural rhythm where you can actually be aroused by a real woman physically being there instead of just making images in your head and fast forwarding through porn. My battery just ran out in two of my cameras, so now we're left with just this one. To wrap up, one of the best things you can do is be alone. Spend some time alone if you get the opportunity to. I'm not saying if you're with somebody now, let it play out if it's worth playing out. But don't just jump from person to person if you end up breaking up or something. Make it a point to spend some time alone and get to know yourself. Why would anybody want to know you and hang out with you if you are uncomfortable in your own company? They're not there to amuse you. They're not there to be your entertainment. You have to be cool. Hanging out in silence. Being by yourself. Being comfortable and loving your own presence. And finally, start disciplining yourself for long-term goals. Instead of instant gratification stuff, and I've already covered this briefly, but instant gratification gets you instant regret. Instant gratification is me eating ice cream right now when I'm trying to lose 5 pounds. Instant gratification is me having sex with a coworker and losing my job because of it, and possibly my girlfriend. Instant gratification is impulsive destruction. Look at the big picture. That's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next time. Vlad V out.